In the shadowed heart of Westminster Abbey, amidst the faded grandeur of ancient kings and queens, lies a sarcophagus few dare to question. It is modest by royal standards, heavy with symbolism but plain in decoration, resting above the bones of Queen Mary I.E., her half-sister and bitter rival. The coffin of Queen Elizabeth I has lain undisturbed for more than 4 centuries, its presence more myth than matter, more legacy than flesh. But beneath its lead-sealed lid lies one of the most fascinating and grotesque mysteries of the Tudor dynasty. What happens to a monarch's body when the trappings of power rot away, and only flesh, bone, and embalming mistakes remain? Elizabeth died on March 24, 1603, after a reign that reshaped England into a world power. Her death, cloaked in silence and anxiety over succession, was quietly mourned by a nation unsure of its next chapter. No autopsy was performed. Her body was reportedly embalmed within hours, sealed in a coffin made of lead and oak, and hidden from public view until her state funeral over a month later. This delay, while ceremonial in nature, presented an alarming problem: the inevitable biological march of decay. By the time her body was finally laid to rest, the process of putrefaction had already advanced, despite the best efforts of Elizabethan morticians. And therein lies the start of the stench. Contemporary records say little about the specifics of her embalming. We know that the Tudor-era process involved evisceration, removing internal organs, followed by the insertion of preservative materials such as herbs, spices, and resins. But there are murmurs among scholars that something went wrong. Some believe the embalming was rushed or incomplete due to political pressure and secrecy surrounding the Queen's health at the time of death. Others suggest the embalming materials themselves were tainted or incorrectly applied. Whatever the truth, reports from later centuries describe the coffin as giving off a noxious effluvia whenever disturbed. During minor renovations in Westminster in the 18th and 19th centuries, stonemasons and clerics recorded powerful odors seeping through fissures in the tomb. The abbey's clergy, sworn to silence about royal remains, allegedly attempted to seal these breaches with pitch and wax. Still, rumors persisted of discoloration on the stone, of insects attracted to the sealed crypt, and of a distinct, almost chemical stench wafting on especially humid days. But what could produce such an odor after centuries underground? The answer may lie in the coffin's construction. Lead-lined coffins, while excellent at slowing decomposition, do not halt it entirely. Instead, they create a closed ecosystem, one where anaerobic bacteria can thrive. Without oxygen, certain strains of bacteria begin to liquefy tissue, releasing foul-smelling gases such as cadaverine and putrescine. The result is a pressurized sarcophagus that, if disturbed, can belch out centuries of decay with horrifying force. This phenomenon is not unique to Elizabeth, but it is her story that lends it particular gravitas. Because in life, she was famed for her image, her flawless complexion, bright gowns, and powdered face masking the ravages of age. In death, that same image was undone by biology's brutal reality. Adding to the mysteries what Elizabeth may have suffered in her final years. Accounts from court physicians and ambassadors suggest she experienced chronic headaches, severe mood swings, depression, and possibly hallucinations. Some historians now speculate she may have been slowly poisoned by her own cosmetics. The iconic white lead-based makeup she wore, known as Venetian ceruse, was highly toxic. Daily application over decades could have led to cumulative lead poisoning, resulting in organ failure, neurotoxicity, and psychological decline. Ironically, the very thing that preserved her public image may have accelerated the deterioration of her private health and her body's decay. It's also worth noting the eerie decision to place her atop the body of Mary I. While the inscription above the tomb celebrates the sisters as partners in throne and grave, history tells a more complex story. Elizabeth was imprisoned by Mary during the early years of her reign. Mary, A devout Catholic saw her younger Protestant half-sisters both a threat and a heretic. When Elizabeth came to power, she reversed many of Mary's religious reforms and reshaped England into a Protestant stronghold. In death, their bodies were reunited, but not without symbolic tension. Some believe the placement was a political gesture toward reconciliation. Others view it as a grim irony. The living rivalry buried, literally, in layers of conflicting faiths and decaying flesh. Then there's the moment of opening a topic shrouded in partial truths and professional discretion. It is believed that Elizabeth's coffin was briefly accessed during maintenance in the 19th century, though official records are vague. Private notes from one cathedral worker suggest that the lid had warped slightly over time and was resealed with care. But what was briefly glimpsed inside, he claimed, was horrific, dark, partially liquefied remains, the faint outline of a face twisted by time and pressure, and an odor so powerful he had to be carried from the chamber. Modern science offers a few chilling insights. Forensic experts agree that sealed lead coffins, especially in moist environments like Westminster Abbey, become breeding grounds for internal decomposition. The fluids generated have nowhere to go, and gases build pressure over decades. If a seal breaks, or worse, if the coffin is opened abruptly, it can result in a phenomenon known as coffin burst, a literal explosion of pent-up decay. Though this was more likely avoided in Elizabeth's case, it adds a grotesque possibility to any future efforts to study the body. And yet, curiosity remains. There are historians, anthropologists, and forensic specialists who believe that re-examining Elizabeth's remains could answer enduring questions. Did she suffer from lead poisoning? What caused her death? What secrets does her body still hold beneath those centuries of royal ceremony and silence? But the British Crown has long forbidden such an intrusion, citing tradition and sanctity. After all, this was a queen who carefully crafted her myth, a ruler who declared, "I will have here but one mistress and no master." To pry open her coffin is not just to examine a body, but to shatter a legacy. Still, the whispers grow louder. As technology advances and other royal tombs are explored around the world, calls to revisit Elizabeth's resting place are no longer relegated to conspiracy forums or dusty footnotes. They come from scholars with genuine intent, and from a public increasingly hungry for unvarnished history. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into the physical conditions of the Abbey, the forensic models used to understand long-sealed coffins, and the personal testimonies of those who claim to have encountered the Queen's enduring presence, from unexplained odors to ghostly sightings, because sometimes history doesn't rest in peace. Sometimes it leaks through the cracks, and it reeks of something too human to ignore. The mystery of Queen Elizabeth's burial doesn't end with whispers of rot and regal rivalry. It deepens with every overlooked document, unexplained odor, and flickering glimpse of the supernatural. If Chapter 1 introduced us to the disturbing biological consequences of centuries spent sealed in lead and ceremony, this chapter peels back the layers of myth, masonry, and monarchy to ask an unsettling question. Is Elizabeth I truly at rest? To answer that, we must return to Westminster Abbey, not as pilgrims or mourners, but as forensic investigators. Beneath the ornate arches and velvet ropes lies a space where architecture, history, and decomposition coexist. The Abbey's microclimate, cool, damp, and lacking sunlight, is less than ideal for preservation. Humidity cycles vary subtly over the year, but enough to affect wood, lead, and stone. Many of the Abbey's tombs, particularly those constructed before modern sealing methods, have slowly shifted, cracked, or leaked over time. Queen Elizabeth's is no exception. While publicly the Abbey maintains respectful silence about any disturbance to royal graves, private maintenance logs and anonymous interviews tell a different story. In the 1870s, during structural reinforcements near the chapel of Henry V, II workers allegedly detected a powerful chemical stench, emanating from the tomb shared by Mary and Elizabeth. One witness claimed it smelled like dead roses left to stew in vinegar and wet parchment. Some chalked it up to rotting building materials. Others knew better. Even in the 20th century, visitors and staff occasionally reported faint odors, as well as odd sensations, temperature fluctuations, disorientation, and in rare cases, feelings of being watched. While easily dismissed as imagination or reverence-induced unease, a pattern formed. The closer one stood to Elizabeth's tomb, the more likely they were to feel something. Not fear exactly, but an undeniable human presence. And then there are the ghost stories. Sightings of Elizabeth's spectral form have been documented since the early 1800s. She is said to walk the Abbey's shadowed halls in a flowing white gown, face obscured, sometimes accompanied by the soft sound of weeping or the faint whisper of her famous speech, "I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman." Some claim to have heard tapping from beneath her tomb, dismissed as settling stone or groundwater. Yet, the consistency with which these reports appear in caretaker diaries, letters, and memoirs is enough to unsettle even the most skeptical mind. But beyond the spiritual, a more tangible mystery lingers. We still don't know what truly caused Elizabeth's death. She was reportedly healthy, lucid, and politically aware even into her 70th year, remarkable for the era. Then, within weeks, she slipped into a silent, unresponsive state. Refusing food, declining medical treatment, she sat upright for hours in stony silence until her death. Her physicians gave no clear cause. Her counsel didn't press. The urgency of succession silenced any deeper inquiry. So, what are the theories? One is lead poisoning from her makeup, her wine goblets, even her environment. This would explain her mood swings, chronic fatigue, and mental decline. Another points to pneumonia or cancer, hidden and unspoken. A third, more sinister theory suggests she was slowly poisoned, not by accident, but by political actors eager to end the Tudor line and usher in a new dynasty. After all, her death cleared the way for King James VI of Scotland to inherit the throne as James I of England, uniting the crowns and creating the foundations of the modern United Kingdom. What if her death wasn't natural but engineered? Today, the idea of exhuming Elizabeth's remains is both thrilling and taboo. Forensic analysis could reveal not just her true cause of death, but her actual appearance, health, and even diet. Isotopic bone analysis could tell us where she lived and how she aged. Dental records might confirm or challenge long-standing portraits. Most tantalizingly, DNA tests could settle one of the most enduring rumors in British history, the so-called Bisley Boy theory. According to this theory, Elizabeth died young while visiting the village of Bisley, and was secretly replaced by a boy of similar age to avoid the wrath of Henry III. The theory is considered fringe, based on circumstantial folklore and perceived inconsistencies in portraits and fashion. Still, a full exhumation and DNA comparison with her verified relatives like Mary I or Anne Boleyn could finally put it to rest. Yet, despite modern science's eagerness to shed light on history, Buckingham Palace and Westminster Abbey remain steadfast in their refusal. The reasons are predictable: dignity, sanctity, royal protocol. But one can't help but wonder if deeper motivations lie hidden behind these denials. Could it be that what lies within that coffin is too shocking to reveal? That Elizabeth's legacy, so carefully crafted in life, is better left undisturbed in death? Then there is the coffin itself. Experts believe that Elizabeth's sarcophagus is at risk of wet rot, a process wherein interior organic materials break down into a sludgy mass due to trapped moisture. In extreme cases, lead-lined coffins can collapse inward, especially if the body liquefies over centuries. This might explain why Elizabeth's tomb has been subtly reinforced in recent years, without public announcement or visible alteration. Could the Abbey be quietly combating an interior collapse? Could the Queen's remains already be partially unrecognizable? If so, the case for forensic preservation becomes urgent. With time, the information we could recover from Elizabeth's body degrades. Her DNA, her tissues, her bones, all are subject to chemical breakdown. Every year of delay makes answers less likely. But with each passing decade, public fascination grows. Documentaries, podcasts, and petitions have all renewed the call for respectful exhumation. The question is no longer whether Elizabeth I should be disturbed. It is when. The situation becomes even more ethically complex when viewed alongside recent royal exhumations. Richard, his remains were famously unearthed beneath a Leicester car park in 2012, and the operation was hailed as a scientific triumph. His bones revealed battle wounds, scoliosis, and details of his brutal final moments. Why then is Elizabeth, a far more influential monarch, considered untouchable? Is it simply gender, or does her myth carry more political weight than Richard's villainy ever could? One could argue that Elizabeth, even in death, still rules. Her persona, the Virgin Queen, the Gloriana. The last Tudor has been shielded for centuries behind layers of religious myth, political symbolism, and cultural nostalgia. To open her coffin might humanize her too much. It might strip away the powdered image and reveal the woman beneath the frailty, the flaws, the stench of reality. And maybe that is the final irony of her reign, that a queen so dedicated to control, to performance, to perfection, might be undone, not by scandal or slander, but by the simple, inescapable truth of human decay. That no matter how grand the crown or divine the rule, every monarch ends in flesh, bone, and rot. So for now, the coffin remains sealed. The odors linger. The abbey stands silent, but not forever. Because history doesn't stay buried, and coffins, no matter how well sealed, don't stay shut.